Welcome to the Creative Community Podcast, presented by Destination Arete. I'm David.
And I'm Mark. We're building a community of creatives who work together to achieve creative excellence. And today's guest is fine art oil painter Jared Brady.
Jared talks to us about some pivotal moments in his education journey in fine art and opportunities that he had that are still available to many young artists today.
Yeah, Jared also shares some of the mentors that he's had and the opportunities that he's had to study with them, as well as how you can learn online with Jared Brady literally right now. So without further ado, here's our interview with fine artist Jared Brady.
Thanks, guys, for having me on the podcast. It's really exciting what you guys are doing, and just thankful that you guys invited me. My name is Jared, and I've been painting for about 6 years now, I'd say, oil painting. And I do landscape, still life, some figurative work, and showing in some galleries and teaching online with Sentient Academy, a recent online art school. So that's really, it's been an interesting process to learn how to teach online, since I haven't really done too much in-person teaching. So it's been a really interesting journey teaching with them.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Can you show us anything you're working on? Like, you're sitting there. Can you show us anything?
Yeah, I'm working on some little thumbnails. I don't know if you can see them too well.
Yeah.
But some little square thumbnails, and for some larger paintings for a possible group show in the fall with one of my galleries. So it's always tricky, because I get so used to painting small, like little 8x10s or 11x14, 16x20. That's kind of my comfort range. But for larger shows, they really want you to paint much larger and fill the wall space. So that's going to be an interesting project that's coming up.
Yeah, well, that's super exciting. You'll have to post on Instagram like a tape tear off reveal.
Yeah,
of those thumbnails.
The satisfying tape.
Those are so
Josh Clare,
his blue tape coming off. I'm like, oh, show me again. You know, I'm like, yeah, it's so good. Put those on repeat as I go to bed. Just watch them. So good. Well, I'm super excited that you're going to be in that group show, and that you'll get to kind of exercise that muscle of putting in, getting to do those bigger pieces. So, well, speaking of your comfort zone, I just wanted to ask, can you describe your workshop journey kind of up until this point? And then I'll ask a follow-up after you're done, but just, can you kind of describe your workshop journey?
Yeah, sure. I kind of started with more of a local art teacher that my parents encouraged me to start taking lessons from. And he would do kind of weekly lessons that were about 2 hours in length. And that kind of got me primed for, the workshops and pursuing a career in the arts. And from there, I just kind of would look at artists I admired and try and find workshops in the area. And I'd say I kind of started. There's one workshop in Wyoming that really kind of got me going. It was through my teacher, Ken Shanika, and they have this amazing scholarship program where they'll pay for the student to stay there. It's a week-long workshop, and they bring in artists from all across the country. A lot of really well-known wildlife artists teach there. And it's really like a family environment where everybody's just, sitting down, eating together and sharing stories, and you get to know all these teachers. So it just feels like a really big family. And I think that kind of opened my eyes to just be exposed to that quality of work and all the teachers and how kind they are. That's what really got me interested in wanting to pursue this full time. And I met Thomas Caleb Goggins. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his work, but he really kind of opened my eyes to, I guess, representational painting from life, observational painting, all that. Cause he would just encourage everybody at the workshop. He's like, paint from life, whatever, even if you have to just work on still life paintings, even if you really want to just do portraits, but you don't have access to, models or people to sit for you, just paint from life as much as you can, develop those observational skills. And that was really critical. Cause I think once I started thinking that way, that's when I really my growth started accelerating, because I just focused on painting from life as much as possible. And yeah, so I think that's how I kind of got started in workshops. From there, I took a workshop with Clayton Beck, and he's taught at the Palette and Chisel quite a bit. And there was a visiting artist series where he came to the Art Students League of Denver. And yeah, that was a really great workshop. He taught me, I think the biggest thing was to squint and compare and squint and trust, and like just always squinting your eyes down to compress those values. And yeah. Do you want me to talk about every workshop I've gone through, or what are you kind of?
Well, the reason we asked you about the workshops, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you just decided to go the workshop route instead of art school, similar to another guest that we've had. I think Stephanie Page Thompson did the same thing.
Oh, she's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we loved her. And so I think that's what we wanted to ask you was like, I mean, obviously you feel like it's the right choice, but maybe that workshop in Wyoming is what kind of confirmed that for you, or do you know when that was?
I think that's when I kind of started to click with a lot of concepts started to click with me, and seeing how much I gained from that workshop environment, I kind of realized that that's the right fit for me personally, because I know it's not the right fit for everybody, of course, because everybody has a different way of learning and applying the information. But I just feel like the workshop route was really helpful for me because it gave me access to so many amazing artists that I look up to, and just to be able to talk with them and, ask for advice. And they almost, that everybody is so giving with information. And that's one of the things I love about this art community is there's no secrets. They're not trying to hide anything or sell you any special secret sauce or anything. It's all open, and they're just so giving and willing to share. And yeah, I think being able to go to an environment like that, get all that information, and then you just have to really apply it and work really hard, just putting in the hours, making mistakes, learning from mistakes, getting feedback. And that's how I found the most growth personally. And I know for some people, they need more of a structured environment, and that's where they thrive. So I think there's a lot of really wonderful art schools and ateliers that are out there. But I think I'd encourage everybody just to try different environments and see what really clicks with you for your learning style.
Yeah, the workshop environment is really interesting because it's a very concentrated form. Sometimes it's a 2 or 3 days or a week max, usually, where it's just a concentrated thing where you're kind of just, usually the artist is pouring kind of everything they know into you over that course of that time. And then you're getting to paint, but you're not painting a full painting, maybe you're just working on it. So, what is it, do you think, that about your personality that made you more fit for the workshop, life over the college life? Do you think it's just like is it your work ethic? Is it your, just what is it about your personality that you said, man, I think this is kind of the route for me?
That's a good question. I think I've always learned things pretty quickly and picked things up quickly. And that can be a blessing and a curse in a way, because you can pick things up quickly, but then you're not as challenged, so you might just give it up or you slack on things. So you have to really be careful if you kind of have that aptitude for picking up things quickly. But with art, I felt like, I can pick up concepts pretty quickly. And I think with workshops that it's really beneficial because I'm getting a lot of that information in a compressed format, so I can take all that in. But I think the difficult part for me is I really just have to make sure I'm applying what I learn personally within my own work and putting the time in, because it can be easy to just, learn something quickly, but not really delve deep into those concepts and work on them.
Yeah, that's a super interesting idea. I think you're right on with that. The idea that your skill set of being able to pick up things quickly is perfect for the workshop environment, because then you can leave the instructor and go work on things for as long as you want before, jumping back in to get more information. I love that. That's great. I wanted to shift a little bit and talk specifically about maybe some of the people that you had the opportunity to study with, and ask them, like, who do you think has challenged you the most and encouraged you the most so far in your art career?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one because there's quite a few people, but I'd say the most important personally would be my parents and my teacher and mentor, Ken Shanika. He's that one oil instructor that really, really helped me develop and gave me time to explore all sorts of mediums, subject matter, and introduced me to kind of the business side of things. So do you want me to just start with one or the other, or just, do you have a...
That's up to you, man. We okay. Just, yeah, I know you mentioned a couple, like, I know you were kind of going through the list of workshops you would work with, but if there's something that kind of stands out to you, or maybe someone that you've gone back to, like Ken, or maybe another instructor that you've kind of, maybe you emailed them or you reached out to them on social media, just something like that, that might help someone who's getting ready to take a workshop know, you know, what to look for and how to interact and how to approach that idea of not only like they're going to be there painting, but they're also there to meet some people and to connect with them and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I guess I'll start with my local instructor, Ken Shanika. And I think, you know, he's just so warm and encouraging, and you can just tell the way he interacts with his students. He just wants them to succeed, and he puts so much time and energy into just helping them and giving it everything he has. And he would always tell students he wants us to be better than him and exceed what he's done. And that's when teachers have that attitude and that idea of they're just wanting to put everything out there and help the students succeed, even if they exceed the teacher themselves. That's just that. I think that really tells you a lot about their character. And if you can find people like that locally, I think that's a really important thing to have, you know, mentors locally that can help you in that way. And he would just help so much with the business side of things, teaching us, you know, how to frame our work, how to document our work, how to present ourselves. And I think that's really been super important for my journey, because a lot of the time when you're getting into art, all you're learning is about the art side of things and, you know, focusing on painting or creating. But realistically, there's that whole other side that you have to keep in mind. And if you want to build it into a career and a lifelong pursuit, you have to really learn the business side of things and apply that. And I think that will give you a huge edge and advantage in the long run if you can learn that early on.
You talked about the one workshop in Wyoming where everybody was like eating together. Is that something that you found that is the same every workshop, or is that something you really have to work for in some areas and you kind of comes naturally in others?
Well, I think it's good to look out for, like, to try and find those environments where it really, you remove a lot of the barriers. Like with that one workshop in Wyoming, it's like a week-long just workshop where you don't have to worry about life, or, I mean, it's a rare thing, but when you can just put yourself in that environment where there's just mentors everywhere and there's teaching and you're learning so much, and you don't have to worry about outside stresses. You can just really focus on creating and learning as much as you can. And that's a similar environment to like the palette project that Daniel Keyes puts on with the Scottsdale Art School, where you can just kind of leave everything behind and just focus on learning as much as you can. It's it's a really healthy environment to be in. And I think there's, you know, similar environments with art schools and ateliers, but I'd say, you know, try and put yourself in those kind of environments where, you know, you're just encouraged to create and learn, and you don't have to worry about outside things going on.
Yeah. That's super cool, because even if you can't find that environment locally, like you were able to do, there's like online communities. Like for instance, I know you teach at Sentient Academy, which has its own like discussion groups where you can get feedback from like world-class instructors, and you can put your paintings in there and stuff and get, if you're a part of one of their courses, which that was really cool. I got to take a course from Sentient, and that was super helpful. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with Sentient? Specifically, we are curious. You can talk kind of broader about it if you want, but we're really curious if there's something about like teaching with Sentient that has kind of taught you something about your own art, or that you've discovered something new through teaching.
Yeah, it's I've talked to a lot of artists, and a common theme that I've found is teaching will teach you a lot about your own work and your own thought process, and how teaching really can help you in your own career, develop your work. And it seems kind of like a weird thing. It's like, why would teaching other people help your own work so much? But I think it's really, it forces you to put yourself back in the mindset of a beginner and someone who has really no knowledge. And you have to break down these big concepts into really simple to digest things, that it just really helps your own work when you're able to go back to those fundamentals and think through in a simple way like that. So with Sentient, it's been, at first it was really intimidating, because it's like when Keith contacted me and really wanted me to come on board with them, I was, you have, of course, imposter syndrome is so common with an artist, but just, it's like, why does he want me? There's all these amazing artists like, Josh Clare, Brian Mark Taylor. It's like, I don't feel like I fit in there, but he really wanted to bring me in because I was so young and what I've been doing. And I think he saw potential in me, and just that I was able to do what I've been able to do. And I did a little bit of streaming, and I think he saw kind of like the video side of how I was able to share my work, and saw a lot of potential in me. And I'm really thankful for them for, giving me a chance, because it's not too common that places like that will bring on younger artists just starting out in their career, because, there's a little more risk to it, I suppose. But it's just been a really wonderful experience, and he's been super encouraging and helping me develop confidence in teaching and speaking about my work. And I think it's really helped, I think, with confidence, just in myself and my work, knowing that students are willing to spend time and use their hard-earned money to pay for a course with me. It just seems like it's a crazy idea that people are, looking for my work and how I paint, when, sometimes I just struggle with, like, why am I even an artist? It's like, my art isn't good. But, I think it's definitely encouraging to know there's people out there wanting to learn from me and learn how I see things.
This is a bit of a different question, but do you find that when you're willing to give, then you end up getting something back? Maybe because I find that when I pressure myself to get all of my stuff done and I don't have time for other people, I end up not accomplishing what I wanted to do. Whereas when I set other people first, take care of their problems, take care of their needs, take care of their wants, help them first, then all of a sudden, all this time in my schedule appears to do the things I need to do and I want to do. And I don't know if you found that with preparing to teach. And as I know, you're not interacting necessarily one-on-one with people or in person, but maybe in the process of preparing that for other people, you found that in the giving of yourself, you're actually getting something back.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think I remember Daniel Key saying something similar. Like I don't know if it was if he asked his father or something. I don't know if the exact specifics, but it was something along the lines that, just give as much as you can and you'll receive so much. And I think it's a really important thing to kind of have that servant mindset and try and give as much as you can. Because it's really fulfilling and rewarding when you're able to just share so much of yourself and your struggles and opening up about those things. And I think with Sentient, it's really been helpful just, having to figure out how to prepare courses or prepare paintings. Just all those things really feed into my own work and have been really, I think, improving the quality of my work and, the ideas and the scope of my work, just really having to figure out how to break those ideas down for beginners. It has really improved, I think, how I approach painting in general.
Yeah, that is super cool. I wanted to talk a little bit and just pick your brain about kind of your personal loves in painting. So you are known for kind of your winter Colorado snow scenes, which are super cool. Like there are these forests, beautiful light streaming through the trees. You're also known for your still lifes, and you do, like you said, figuratives as well, figurative pieces. But like that I've seen you just kind of hammering out some of those, especially when the winter months come. You're like, oh, here come the Bradys. They're coming. Yeah. So I get really excited. But can you talk a little bit about where that obviously I think it's because you live close to there, but can you talk about your love of that subject matter, specifically like the mountainous Colorado winter forests?
Yeah, I think it's we live fairly remote. I mean, we're pretty close to a small town. I'd say we're 5 minutes out from a pretty small town, but we're blessed to have a lot of property around us, just forest, and we're right next to national forest too. So I just grew up, we would play outside, we would build forts, we would just do so much stuff outside. So I think that's kind of a part of me. And there's not always a great way to say it, but it's just, I'm drawn to that. And it's sometimes hard to kind of describe, but just, I don't know, it's just something about the forest has always spoken to me. I just love, how abstract it is and entangled and chaotic in a way, but trying to figure out how to rein that in and control it it's always been a struggle, but a good challenge. And I think, painting what and what's really personal and you have that deep connection to, I think that's a lot of artists come back to that. And I don't know, I just have such a strong connection to it. And especially the winter scenes, I just love how it changes the landscape when there's that blanket of snow. You have the really cool abstract shapes that are created. And then if you introduce light and shadow into that, you get such beautiful, passages of light, shadow, color, edges, so many fun things. And it's just really, especially painting from life outside in the winter, it's just really peaceful. It's just so quiet, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to, have the privilege to be able to do that.
Oh, so cool. I feel like you should have your own North Face line, like the Jared Brady North Face package. You're so cool.
I was going to ask, how do you stay warm? Because you have
to. I wish I could figure that out too. I use I just try and layer up, and lots of hand warmers, and I use, for my hands, I have liners, and then like kind of another outer layer, and I put hand warmers in between the two. And there's kind of a time limit on it. I found it's kind of 2.5 hours when you kind of have to call it quits a lot of the time, because your hands just get so cold that you kind of can't really paint anymore. But yeah, I've been trying to do some research on the best winter gear, because I know it's possible to stay out even longer. But it's at first, after like a nice summer and fall of painting outside, I was like, when it's winter again, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go out, because it's that initial, like, you have to get over that. It seems like so much work to get all the winter gear on and then set up outside in the winter. But once I kind of get into that rhythm, there's nothing quite like it, and it's just such a fun time. And I have a lot of good memories. at that one workshop in Wyoming, I remember it started to snow, and there was a lot of other scholarship students from Texas that had never seen snow before, and they were just having such a fun time outside. And then we went out to paint with one of the instructors, and it's just kind of like those, like the worst conditions make the best memories in a way, because they just stick with you. And we were all just shaking outside trying to paint. But yeah, I would have never thought that I would have become a landscape painter that does a lot of snow scenes. Like, it just seems like almost a weird thing, but I guess I've kind of become known for it, and it's probably my favorite thing to paint. And it's funny because some of my galleries are like, oh, another snow scene. But it's just, I have such a good, deep personal connection to it that I think it just keeps drawing me back and finding different ways to say and to speak kind of that winter. There's so many ways to paint it that I feel like I'd never run out of just being able to paint the same little area, the same valley. I could paint in that same valley for 10 years and find new things to paint. Just, I think it's a great way to force yourself to look for new things to paint, and new ways to say it when you're limited in a way. Because I just have the amount of property outside, so I've painted in the same area multiple times, but I've really tried to find new things and look at the same area in a new way. And it's like a really cool thing is like Monet's, some of his landscapes, where he would paint the same scene just in different lighting and weather conditions. And I think that's something I'm thinking of doing at a large size too, is painting the same area under different conditions, because it changes so much with the different times of day, different lighting conditions, different weather conditions. I could just paint the same area of forest so many times and find new things to enjoy in it.
Man, that is so cool, because I think about it, like I've heard the term, like there's like the capital T, where like you can be shallow in a lot of things, but if you go deep into one area, there's a different level of kind of connectedness to it. Because I think as an artist, my mind's like, oh, but if I pick just this, then I won't be able to do all the other things, and it's like, but once you pick that, you're just going to have this deep dive and you're going to have this richness and this connection that can't be attained otherwise, and won't be able to show in your work. It'll if you're just shallow in so many areas, that will show, so I just love that you're able to do that deep dive, and in such a, there's nothing more calm than the forest, and then you put a blanket of snow over it, and it's just like, oh, peace to the max. That's so cool. So I have a question. What is the name of that Wyoming workshop? Do they still do it, or was that just a limited time?
It's the SKB Foundation workshop.
Okay.
And it's kind of like almost a hidden secret, I guess, within the art community, because I don't hear it come up too often, but there's been some pretty big names that have gone to it. In the past, James Gurney has taught there, Everett Raymond Kinsler, Robert Bateman, Mort Solberg. There's a lot of really well-known artists that teach there over the years. And Michael Shea Neal was supposed to teach there in person last year, but with COVID, he wasn't able to do it in person. So he did some online teaching, and I helped him kind of stream it out. I went to Wyoming and helped manage kind of the Zoom classes and all the camera angles. So that was pretty fun.
So cool. Yeah. Was it just wildlife focused the year you were there, or do they do, because I know some of the artists you mentioned are not kind of wildlife specific?
Well, they I guess it's primarily a wildlife, and that's kind of how it started out, but it's starting to branch out more. They have different artists who teach, still life, figurative. So there's a pretty wide range, because usually they have 2 to 3 main instructors each year, and you get to choose who you study under. But then they also have returning instructors from all the previous years there in person who are just kind of helping out and you can talk to them. So the first year I went, I studied a lot with Thomas Caleb Goggins, and he's involved with the Portrait Society as well. So he really, I think that was a really critical part, at least the initial journey, kind of opening my eyes to that. Yeah, but it's a pretty amazing workshop.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And I'd say, I guess on the note of workshops, I've also wanted to just mention, Kwang Ho is also a really critical workshop that I was able to really thankful I was able to take under him. Because nowadays it's a little harder to find in-person teaching from him because he doesn't teach as often. But he did a workshop, 3-day workshop at the Art Students League of Denver. And it was, super eye-opening because the way he approaches painting and the thought process and the kind of philosophy behind how he paints really has influenced me strongly. And thinking of things in an abstract way, like if you're painting a light and shadow scene, just thinking, what is this light or is this shadow, breaking things down into shapes, value, color, and really the intentionality behind every stroke and how he makes every shape unique and beautiful, and just that care and that just seeing him paint and how he just is so joyful, just puts a smile on your face when you watch him paint, because you can tell he's just having fun and just really enjoying it. And I think he's been super influential as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions, David?
I think that the first collab we should all do is some sort of like they do in ice fishing to stay warm, but it's for panerists, right? It's like some sort of like
ice
fishing.
A little transportable cabin.
Yeah, it's a pop-up cabin, and then if you need to put your hands in it to get warm.
Yeah.
There's the window in the cabin is the viewfinder, and it's like, so you can have an 8x10 window. You can have a little, and it's adjustable, so you can do a 9x12 and 8x10, and then you just
out like this.
Exactly. It's just the window. Oh, that'd be so cool.
That'll be our first. We'll get some gear. We'll get a clothing sponsor, somebody to give us some materials. So
you can find my work on Instagram at Jared Brady Art. I have a website, jaredbrady.com. You can follow my work there as well. And I'm teaching, I have a course going on Sentient Academy, and that's, it's currently a still life course and kind of adding a landscape section to that course to kind of bulk it out. And that'll be available pretty soon. So yeah, I'd love for you to learn with me on Sentient. And it's an amazing community, and I highly recommend taking from all the different teachers there.
Once again, we are super grateful to Jared for joining us on the podcast this week. You can find him on Instagram at Jared Brady Art or on his website, jaredbrady.com. And definitely visit our friends over at Sentient Academy to check out Jared's course, as well as the many other courses that they offer from amazing artists.
You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Subscribe to us on all those platforms for more episodes like this one. And you can leave us a comment or review or a question about something you heard in today's episode. That lets the algorithm know that you liked it and you want to see more stuff like this. And feel free to share this interview with a friend that you might think would benefit from what Jared had to say about his approach to learning and creating art.
And you can connect with us on Facebook and Instagram, Destination Arete, ARETE, for more interviews like this one, as well as information about community activities and upcoming Arete projects. So we will be back in 2 weeks with another interview. See you then.